Welcome to Swanzey Then and Now. I'm your host, Jody Turner, and I have Lee Dunham here today. He's the local historian for Swanzey. I love having you on the show, Lee, because you just know so much about Swanzey and the surrounding area. So I feel like I can just ask you anything and you'll know it. But what we've done today is we've gotten a few pictures together so that we can kind of know what we're talking about, where we're in different places. Today we're going to be in North Swanzey again, over towards Wilson Pond, Spriggsville and Unionville and
No. That's East Swanzey. No,
That's East Swanzey.
Spriggsville and Swanzey Factory.
Okay, Swanzey Factory. Okay.
Or I could give you Factory Village.
There's, Swanzey. Now they're considering it all Swanzey, but years back, those 5 boroughs. I think that was about as far as you wanted to go. You had everything that you needed in each of those communities because you had Westport, North Swanzey, East Swanzey, West Swanzey, and
Swanzey Center.
Swanzey Center.
How could you miss that?
I know, seriously. It's the center of everything. It's going to be the center of everything with the roundabout, too. But, I think everybody had their little niches throughout the area.
Well, you didn't have to go that far.
Right.
And as a kid,
you didn't want to. You were on a horse.
And as a kid, too. I mean, even in the 60s, as a kid, you had your boundaries. You couldn't go, like I couldn't go on the other side of Sawyer's Crossing Bridge from my house.
Yeah, yeah. But
unless I had permission.
It was a safe place to be because I've heard stories of some youngsters, my husband for one, that they would go all the way to Swanzey Lake. They lived in Swanzey Center. And they would ride their bikes to Swanzey Lake. They would go over to Mike Johnson's. They would go.
Did they go over Talbot Hill to Swanzey
Probably
Lake?
because
it was
they would slide down Talbot Hill. So anyway, that's a different story. But today we're going to focus on North Swanzey. And what I'd like to just touch on, we're touching on horses, but there was a stagecoach that would bring people here and there, probably back in the 1800s. There were taverns, there were different things around there. There were places where they could make electricity using the water power, so we'll touch on that a little bit today. And we'll talk a little bit about the Midway bowling alleys and the recreation area.
Wilson Pond Recreation Area.
Right. So let's take a look at the stagecoach and some of the places that it would stop. Now, do you know what this building might be? This might have you stumped. I can't say for sure.
No, it doesn't. That's a stagecoach gift shop.
Aha. And where was this located?
That was located, I think it's still in Marlboro.
Okay.
But it's on the way to Troy on Route 12.
Okay.
The stagecoach was a competitor to, so to speak, Puddin' Holler. I think it was there before Puddin' Holler was. But,
so they had things that they sold there too, and
the building burned, I think, in the 1980s. It was not a gift store at that point.
Right.
It was abandoned. But.
Yeah. And the next door one that we have is a real stagecoach with 4 horses on it. I don't know where that one would be, but that's how they got around in the 1800s.
Yeah. Similar to the one that's in the Swanzey Historical Museum.
Oh, right.
They have one there.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I would really like to get to the museum when the doors open in the spring. That would be really interesting. So, okay, we're going to shoot away from the stagecoaches and we're going to go to the airport.
That right there is a 1950 picture of what the airport looked like. Now, it opened in 1941, 42, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and it's the Keene Airport, but it's on Swansea land?
Yeah.
I don't know what the agreement is there.
Well, the agreement is not good for us. They pay 1941 taxes.
Oh, really?
Unless they develop. Once they develop it, then
well, that gives them no reason to develop it.
Yeah, well.
Okay. And then we have another picture of the airport as well. I think this is a little bit more current. Lots of trees around there now.
That is a little bit, more current.
Yeah. So I think I can see my house there. This is the water treatment center, I believe.
Looks like Wilson Pond and the short runway.
Oh, no, you're right. But it said civil rebuilding residential sewer system adjacent to Swansea, New Hampshire, is what the photograph said. So the sewer system is way in the back then, over towards the left.
Yeah, way off to the left.
Yeah. That's a really kind of pretty picture of Wilson Pond. I've never looked at it that way. Yeah.
That's, so from the fairgrounds almost.
Right, right. Okay, Harris Grove.
That is Harris Grove. Now, I didn't know what Harris Grove was until I saw the picture. And when I saw the picture, I asked some questions and got a little bit of feedback, did some deed research. Harris, this little spot here, was sort of on the north, I'll call it the northwest corner of Wilson Pond. So as you look through that, you're going to see the beach area on the north end. And it was a place where you could get boats and whatever. And in the deed, one of the things I do remember, you could not sell alcoholic beverages
They had
on
that in
this
a lot
premises.
of things that I saw. Yeah, yeah.
So that's, one of those little crazy things. Now it's all private property and cottages are built
Right,
on it. So.
right. But yeah, it seems like they had a lot of things for people to do. Just that far out of Keene,
That
for people to
whole
take
north-
a trolley even
yeah.
to get to.
That whole north side of the pond was actually all sorts of, little places to eat.
Right.
Sort of I want to say carnival atmosphere, but it was a place to go. And
Yeah.
that was the Keene Electric Railways sort of, it's not the only one that would do that. Other
And that was the
electric
trolley,
railways.
the
Yeah.
electric rail. Yeah.
It would go all the way to Marlboro. It went to Wheelock Park on the other end. And then it would come and end right there. About the end of Park Street in 32 is where
Yeah.
the trolley lines ended. And it dropped you off.
Perfect.
And you had a place to recreate.
Right, right.
You
Yeah.
know.
Get out of the house. Yeah, and it wasn't too far. Let's see, Underwood Tavern. That we have another picture of that.
That is, Underwood Tavern, or it was also called the Crossroads Inn.
Okay. And this is over on Route 12.
Route 12. Crossroads Inn is Lake Street, Swanzey Factory Road, and Monadnock Highway, or Route 12.
Yeah.
Which actually got moved from one side of the inn. Actually, this is the side of the inn that it used to be on.
The road.
And then the road changed to the other side, to the
Yeah.
north side of it. That was torn down, I believe, wasn't that long ago, probably in the 2000s or so.
Really?
For some expansion, I guess,
Right.
for Sam's Army Navy.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Because, like a lot of things, I mean, they're old buildings.
Yeah.
But, one of the reasons that we do this show is to encourage people to think about the decisions that they're making with their older buildings and hoping that they're going to keep them going. We've renovated Whitcomb Hall.
Yes.
And we've got the Grange building, the Goldenrod Grange that's on 32 that we're hoping to reestablish. And they're working on the library
Working on
to
the
renovate
library.
that. And, like all of these.
Town Hall, they're trying to, redo that.
Right,
too.
right. A lot of these need elevators because it's different. People, I don't know how people did it before. They never had an elevator before, but now people need elevators. But it's really important to keep these buildings going. So, here we have the Underwood building. It won't ever be there again. And hopefully we'll make some good choices in the future on what we're keeping. Next one is Wilbur Brothers.
This is the old Wilbur Brothers store.
We'll scoop
there's the
back one.
midway.
Yes, there we
There
go.
it is.
Yes.
Okay, this is where Wilbur Brothers originated, which is on Route 32, just north of Park Street. It was an apartment house, and probably is an apartment house today. But that's where Wilbur Brothers got its start. Before it moved on to Route 32, where everybody knows T-Bird or whatever it's known by
Right.
now.
And they had the best potato salad, and their deli was awesome. It was great.
As a young kid, the whoopie pies were actually have the recipe. I got somebody to give it to me. But that baked beans they made,
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. And then Wilbur Brothers had several other stores, as did many of the Fairbankses in the
Right.
area too. Not that they were from Swansea, but a lot of these places kept
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, Wilbur Brothers had the one in Marlboro, the other brother.
Right.
So.
Yep. Yep. Okay, we're gonna go have some fun.
Now
We're gonna
this
go
is-
bowling.
This is the Midway.
Yeah.
And I don't know the whole story about this one, but this is where you could go bowling downstairs. but it also had all sorts of other
Boxing.
stuff. Boxing, they had wrestling,
Yep.
a bunch of things that were here. This
Yeah.
was the recreation area.
Right.
And
Now,
a lot of
why do
people
you
know
think that they did that?
a
Why
lot of-
didn't they have one in like Keene or
I
Did
don't
we have
know. Well, they had
lower
they had
regulations or
They
something,
had a
or-
rec center too.
Oh, right. But yeah, but this seemed like a lot of activity at this one.
Well, it was a place to go,
Right.
a destination.
Yeah.
This, I believe, ends up as a department store, a discount store in the 60s that I remember. And then it burned, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Now there's a house there.
I remember going to Wilson Pond when I was a little kid, and we'd go ice fishing and things. And
Yeah.
we would park up above, and all that was left was the cement foundation. So
Oh,
all I
yeah.
could think in my head was, well, there had to be something here, but I have no idea
Yeah.
what it was. And so I always thought that everything was down below, but they had a lot of other stuff that was up right on Park Street.
Yes, yep, yeah.
And let's see. So let's look at another photograph. Now this is just a postcard.
This is a postcard.
There's the island.
The island, and
Mount
you see the
Monadnock.
smokestack? That's the mill on the south side.
Yeah.
That would be Spragueville.
Okay. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about Spragueville.
Well, Spragueville was the south side of Wilson Pond. That comes because
Where Keene Sign used to be.
Keene Sign,
Yeah.
and all
Route
that.
32, kind of. Yeah.
Obadiah Sprague, he did something with a mill in West Swanzey too, because he has a house over there. But then he buys this and puts 2 mills down on the south end of Wilson Pond. And
Did he
that
need
becomes-
electricity?
He didn't do the electricity.
Oh,
This
no.
This is back before that. These
Okay.
are obviously wooden mills,
Okay.
built out of wood. They burned.
Okay.
Gone.
Of course, like everything else did.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, Keene Gas and Electric, I think it was called, came in, and they're the ones that put the brick structures in and actually used the dams to make power.
So were the brick structures actually the powerhouses for
Yep.
the?
Those are the powerhouses.
Okay.
And
And there was another one over on
there's
Route 12.
the big one there where Keene,
Okay.
we all know it as Keene Sign.
Right. Right.
But the other one was on Swanzey Factory Road, and it's a little one down.
so
if you
cute.
if you blink,
It's a
you
house
don't
now, I
see it.
believe.
It's a house.
Yeah.
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 A very gorgeous house. too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the funny thing about that is, obviously, what happens? How do the powerhouses get water? There's what's called a penstock. Well, the penstock, I can tell you what happened to the one on 32, because it fell in one day, and a car ran into it. Nobody died. It injured a few people. So I
But
know.
what is a penstock?
Penstock is just a large pipe, probably about 6 foot diameter, that takes the water to the water wheel underneath the building. So the water would that's what would turn the wheel to make
Right.
turn the generators.
Yeah.
So there's a pipe underneath these roads. That one I know what happened to. Well, the one in the upper Wilson Pond,
Right.
what happened to that one?
Yeah.
Well, they changed the road in the 70s, and we tried to find the notes of that, and we didn't really come a great idea. So we actually did excavation to it. And we found that they'd smashed into it and filled it in, so to speak. Okay, that's good. Here's the funny story. The funny story is we were working up there one time to shut off water. There was a water leak. And here's where the shutoff is. So we dug, and we found water. That's not good when you're trying to find something. Dug one more time, and all of a sudden the water went poof, gone. We were worried that we just sent all that water down into the house.
Right.
No. Fortunately, when they had,
It was still there.
they had put a bypass. So the water didn't go to the house. It went off and out back into the pond, into
Yeah.
the brook. So
Yeah.
those are the funny things that happen
Yeah.
when you work on this stuff.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah. So, Page Farm. Page Farm
Page
was
Farm.
over in that area too,
Yeah.
while we're in Spragueville.
Page Farm was across the street. That house, the fire department burned that one, if you remember right.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, we burned it. That was, I got to tell you, that was a very well built house.
Had the barn's already been gone?
The barn is across the street. The
I
homestead
never
offices.
thought about that.
That is the page.
That's still there.
Yeah, and actually
all kinds of offices in there.
That barn burned. The original barn burned.
Uh-huh.
But if you look at that, you'll see some structure, structure that's closer to the road. The second barn was built a little bit further away from the road.
Well, that one's pretty close to the road as it is.
But that's the story of that barn.
Uh-huh.
And it's quite a neat barn.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, let's go back to the Wyman Stadium. I believe we have a photograph of the, okay, this is the area. This is up on, this is Park Street then, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's Lake Street.
Or Lake Street, sorry, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Looking off at Mount Huggins.
So they had, again, a bowling alley. They did boxing and wrestling. They had a place to eat. They had probably had dances. Did they do roller skating or any? Do you remember any of that kind of stuff?
I don't remember roller skating,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, yeah. And so the next picture is this looks huge compared to what I remember seeing.
Now you're down on the beach level.
Right.
Looking up at Lake Street behind that projection house.
Yeah.
They actually showed movies here. And I actually heard from, I think it was Roger Packard, that said his father actually was a projectionist for a while.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the things that happened there. They also had, I've got a picture, I think we may have that one, with a band playing.
Well, the next one that we have, yes, I think it is with the band playing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a band on the stage.
Yep.
That is the stage that's set down. Wilson Pond is behind us there, if you look at the photo.
Right. Yeah.
And it's the cement work for all the seats and stuff is still sitting there.
Right. Well, that's I think what I remember seeing.
Yeah.
But it was nowhere near as large as this, from what I can see.
I'm presuming it's all private property, so
Right. I think it is
you
now.
can't-
Yeah.
it's fenced off, so you can't
Right.
get to it.
But when I was little, I was able to go down there. Because
so
when
you
we went
were
out ice fishing, we owned that whole property. No.
You weren't alone.
Yeah, no, it's funny, and I remember, my dad bringing us out, we'd go someplace and he'd be like, yeah, no, don't look at the no trespassing signs. They're okay, I know them. Oh, gosh. So let's see, we have the airport. What were some of the other businesses that were in that area?
Well, we talked about restaurants before, but the Red Roof Restaurant.
Right.
If you don't remember the Red Roof.
I do remember
Donnie
that.
Wilder, he for years put on the Rotary Club's chicken
Yeah.
and lobster bake
Yeah.
for 4th of July. That's what I remember.
Yep.
But that was his catering business.
Right.
But he had the Red Roof restaurant right
Yep.
there where Park Place Vet is.
Right.
And then it moved down to the airport terminal when that was built.
Yep, I remember that too, yep. Yeah.
That was seafood. That was good.
It was good. It was good. When you look back, things just seemed so simple, but with a lot of substance back then. Like when we were growing up, you didn't have to worry about anybody. I don't know. You pretty much trusted. At least I did. I trusted everybody that that I came in contact with, and people watched out for you. And I don't know. It was just
North Swansea was a nice little. I remember.
because you grew up in Swansea Center.
I grew up in Swansea Center, but I do remember one time going up to North Swansea to trick or treat.
Well, it had a neighborhood.
A lot more houses
Yeah.
to deal with there.
Yeah.
But we also did. That was, I think, UNICEF we did for the church.
Yep, we did that.
So
Yeah.
that's why we got bussed up there and did our stuff. So.
Yeah, yeah. So we talked a little bit about Edgewood,
Yep.
about the fact that used to be a racetrack around there. Do they ever use it for anything else now, or is it just a park, an open park?
Edgewood.
The Edgewood, the center part.
Yeah,
Because I've never
as-
seen any activity really going
no,
on there.
I don't believe they use it for
No,
anything at all.
no. Let me see. And what else would I? Let's see. We don't have a cemetery, I don't think, in North Swansea.
Well, there's is it the Willard Cemetery or whatever that's up in Lake Street?
Okay.
There's just one little spot.
Oh, I think I do. Is it near the Yellow House that used to sell antiques?
It's by that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Like, kind of near
it's-
the Rotary.
I'll call it Old Lake Street, but we changed it to Underwood Road.
Uh-huh.
Underwood in favor of
Well,
the Yellow House was in Underwood. That's where Frank and George Underwood
Yeah.
lived. So,
Yeah.
And they owned all that side of the Wilson Pond, that sort of eastern side of it on both sides of the pond too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And if people missed it on one of the other shows, they had ice racing at Wilson Pond.
yes,
So-
they did.
Yeah. So what did they do? Go around the island or something, or how would they do
No,
that?
I
You know?
think there was just a track in the middle of, And did you know? Now, I had people tell me about this, and until I found the actual article, there's a floating island on Wilson Pond.
Is the one that you can see, is that a floating island?
No,
Okay.
a floating island. Now, when I say floating island, I'm talking floating island. When they flooded it out, a section just sort of became an island and would float from here to there. I thought people were crazy.
Right.
But I found an article in the museum.
Uh-huh.
Arthur Wickham actually came in
Yeah.
and removed it one weekend.
Oh.
And the reason they removed it was a hazard to float planes that were flying in.
Oh, because they would land planes there, yeah.
To this day, they still,
Right.
There's a couple, at least two that I know of, that will come in and they actually keep their planes here over winter.
Right.
So they
Yeah.
come in fall
Yeah.
and they take off in the spring.
Yeah.
So,
There's just so much history, and I hope that people will continue to watch some of these programs because I find them informational. I hope they do too. If you have any information that you're interested in sharing with us, or you'd like to be on the show, talk to Lee, ask him a few questions about things that you might not know exactly what the story is, or you might think that you know the story, but you really don't.
well, maybe they know more than I do, because there's one thing about Swanzey, and I think you can attest to this very well. It's large.
It is huge, yes.
And I know a lot of stuff about where I grew up.
Right.
When you start talking East Swansea, North Swansea, West Swansea, I have to listen to people that grew up there.
Right.
They have the real.
Yeah, it's very interesting
And
to
that's
listen to those
that's where a lot of
stories.
this stuff comes from,
Yeah.
because I talk to them.
Yeah. Well, and the library, the Mount Caesar Library,
Yep.
they have a section. I went in there the other day, and I think I could spend hours there. And I know that I'm not expecting you guys to do this, but I'm just trying to figure out stuff. And by me having a relative or a family of relatives that lived in Swansea, it makes it so much more interesting for me too. So they have a section, you go in the front door, you go and get your library card, and then you go off to the right. And they also have some like memorabilia there as well. I mean, I think you could spend hours at the library just going through some of the things that they have. They have old town reports. I have a couple of things here. This was the Swansea Hometown Ripples by Helen Adams. This
Yeah.
was very informative on a lot of information.
Yeah.
These are just a couple that I picked up. Swansea, Our Nation's Bicentennial in 1976.
I was
And
there for that.
You were. I was
I was there for
around in
that.
1976, but not for that one.
We were on CBS TV
Really?
Early
Well, that
in the
sounds like
morning.
another story.
early in the morning.
Okay, well, Lee, we're going to have to cut it here. But what I'd like to do is encourage people to continue a conversation. Talk to your kids about things that have happened in your lives. It doesn't matter if you live in Swansea or someplace else. It's just if you don't talk about it, it will get lost. And there's so much to share and so much to learn from the past. We hope that you'll join us again for Swanzey Then and Now, and I hope, Lee, that you'll come back and join me. All right, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.